How's it going, guys? This is Splashes Superlatives Week 5 edition. I'm going to drop my quarterback rankings here, 32-1. Before we get started, make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel, ring a ding ding, that Le'Veon bell, that notification bell, so you see all of our content when it comes up. Also, make sure to follow us on Twitter and Instagram at UStadium, and you can follow me at Mr. Splashman19. So with that said, let's get into it. Number 32 in the QB rankings this week is Mike Glennon. I'm not 100% sure if he starts. I do want to throw out there that Daniel Jones would be number 15 if he was healthy, but Glennon is the starter as of right now. Could change by Sunday, but as of right now, it's Mike Glennon. Was okay against Dallas. A couple turnover-worthy plays, did throw a pick six. Nothing special. He's just a backup caliber quarterback. And let's move on to another backup caliber quarterback in Jacoby Brissett. He was okay. It was better against Tampa, but a lot of that was Tampa depleted secondary, and Tampa was leading a lot of the game. So 75 overall grade, okay, whatever. Brissett is not doing much for your team. I get statistically he's okay. PFF grade, he's okay, but he's a backup caliber quarterback. This pains me to say Geno Smith is the starting quarterback at the Seattle Seahawks. I do want to throw out there that Russell Wilson, had he been healthy, would be number one. Just flat out number one. So we lost the best quarterback in the NFL by my account. So Geno was okay. He had a late interception that was more of a Tyler Lockett fell down than a Geno Smith mistake, but you're limited with Geno, and Seattle is probably going to go into a tailspin real quick. 29, our last of the backup tier quarterbacks, it's Taylor Heineke. He had 4 turnover-worthy plays this week. That's 10 on the season, all in the last 3 weeks, as crazy as that sounds. Graded in the 40s again. The stat line finally matched it. A sub-50 passer rating, couple interceptions, completion percentage below 50%. A lot of it's hero ball, and a lot of it's not working. Number 28, Sam Darnold. Speaking of not working, PFF grade in the 40s, more turnover-worthy plays than big-time throws for the second straight week. Had 3 picks, doubled his season total on interceptions. Congratulations. Had a pass rating in the 40s, and they blew a lead to the Eagles. This is not the defense you want to have this bad of a game against. It was one thing against Dallas. I didn't think he played well against Dallas, but I like Dallas's defense now that we've got to see it. This wasn't against Tampa, right? This wasn't against a team you care about. This is against the Eagles. The Eagles have one of a bottom 10-ish defense, especially the secondary. This is not the time to have a bad performance, and Darnold was awful. So I'm selling my Darnold stock. I didn't have any Darnold stock to begin with, but I did give him credit where credit was due and had him in my top 20 for a week, right? And he's just been a disaster the last couple of weeks. 27, Jared Goff. This was his first bad week. The first 4 weeks of the season, he was an average quarterback. Yeah, average production, average grade, turn the ball over, would throw a touchdown, average, right? This week, it wasn't very good. He was not the reason why they came back and almost won. He was far from the reason he was actually very much the reason why they were losing for the entire game, besides that like 30-second stretch in the fourth quarter. 50 passing grade. Wasn't doing it for me. You know, he's been bouncing around. He was 20 at one point. He's 26 last week. He's 27 this week. Just very average play. And when you can't make the big time throw and you're turning the ball over like Goff did last week, it's rough. Justin Fields at 26 does drop a spot. It's just a lot of average. It's just a lot of average to slightly below average. It's not going to count as like turnover-worthy plays, but there's so many plays that you think he can be better. He can be better. And this is a great thing. He's a rookie. This isn't me saying he's the 26th best quarterback forever. This is me saying right now I think he's the 26th best quarterback in the NFL. Now we're going to have a stream of rookies here, but Zach Wilson, same ordeal. Didn't have the upside that he had against the Titans. He had a couple big-time throws against the Titans. Didn't have any against Atlanta. Not a great secondary to do that against, but Wilson's been weird. I think he's actually been like solid-ish in non-play action situations, but he's been horrendous in play action. I think he's grading in the 30s on play action. So need to figure it out in New York. I know he's only played 5 games. I get it, but not exactly what you want to see. Moving on, Trevor Lawrence, again, not exactly what you want to see. Drops a spot here. He he is showing that he can make the throws. Like, he is athletically, that's why you take him at number 1. The throws, that's why you take him at 1. Had a fine statistical day. It was against a bad defense. I'll say that. But tomatoes, not a great start to the season for Lawrence, but he's trending-ish in the right direction, I would say. I think his PFF grade was a little low this week, but it happens. 23 Davis Mills. There are very few games in my recollection that one week he's awful, the next week he's like a legitimately good quarterback. Mills had one of the worst performances I've seen live against the Bills, and then he comes back and is awesome against the Patriots. I don't know. 300 yards, 3 touchdowns, 142 passer rating against the Patriots after below 100 yards, 4 interceptions, a sub 30 passer rating against the Bills. I don't understand either. But credit where credit's due, I guess. Number 22, Trey Lance. This is where I will disagree with the PFF grade. I think Lance brings a lot to the Niners, maybe not as a passer, but as kind of like a Lamar Jackson in 2018 as a runner. He had 16 carries for 89 yards. That's not breaking any efficiency records, but what it is doing is moving the chains. And he's half a yard short on a rushing touchdown that would have ended up having the game at 17 all. So I'm going to disagree with the PFF grade here. I think Lance is maybe not as good of a quarterback as other guys, but he brings a good system, and I think he is a better quarterback than Garoppolo for the Niners. Needs to be better on play fakes, though. That's one thing that Garoppolo does exceptionally well. Moving on, 21 Ben Roethlisberger, plus 10 this week. He was actually good. Actually had a good game. Had a beautiful deep ball to Deontay Johnson to open the scoring. This was a good week for Ben. I will, again, credit where credit's due. 75.7 passing grade, typo there. 77 overall grade. A couple touchdowns, no picks. Did have a fumble, but all in all, I think it was a good week, making progress. To the last 3 weeks, I think he's been like a capable quarterback. So there's that. Carson Wentz, I would like to point out that I had Wentz a little lower than I should have coming into the week. So a +9 isn't really reflective of how well he played, but it's more of he's been really solid every week. Week 1, he wasn't awesome, but the last 4 weeks, he's been really solid. He's only had 1 turnover worthy play, which was I believe the forced fumble by Oweh. Went for 400 yards. I will say the touchdowns are a bit misleading. The way he played, he deserved to have 2 touchdowns. Maybe not 400 yards, but he deserved to have 2 touchdowns. But the plays that he actually got the touchdowns on, if this makes sense, were a screen, not Wentz's. Like, Wentz did nothing. And then an underthrown ball to Michael Pittman that Pittman mosses the DB and shrugs off Marlon Humphrey. And he's in. Wentz did not, just chucked it up in the air. So touchdowns are a tad overrated here, but I think he did play well overall. 19, Teddy Bridgewater, a solid enough game against Pittsburgh. It's a tough defense, a tough secondary. Did have a couple turnover-worthy plays. But I think he had a reasonable game. This is the kind of game that you're not blaming Bridgewater for losing. Move on to 18, Jalen Hurts. This will be weeks 5 and 6 combined. A lot of boom, a lot of bust. So he's been super productive as a rusher. He has 4 rushing touchdowns in the last 2 weeks. I don't know, but he does have a sub 60 passer rating, couple interceptions. Not the most prolific passer in the world, but I think he does enough. Just like kind of a solid NFL quarterback. That's what I think Hurts is. Number 17, we have Mac Jones. 3 turnover-worthy plays are a little bit, I don't know about that, but it's just a weird game. I think if you take the first 3 quarters that he had against Tampa and the last quarter that he had against Houston, that's an awesome game. But if you take the first 3 quarters he had against Houston and the 4th quarter he had against Tampa, he's in the 40s. So he's piecing together a solid rookie season, which is saying a lot this year when the other rookies have been all over the place, mainly bad, but all over the place. So Mac is here at 17. Moving into the top half, we have famous Jameis. He's been rocking and rolling. He leads the NFL in touchdown percentage for what that's worth. 13 total touchdowns, just the 4 total turnovers. So you're getting somewhere with Jameis. 3 big-time throws, had a Hail Mary conversion, so I think his stats are a tad bit more than you want, or a tad bit more than you would see on the film. But graded out okay, nothing too special. On the season, he's, I guess, trending in the right direction. He did have a stinker, has had a couple stinkers, but he's generally been okay this season. Matt Ryan has been on fire the last 2 weeks. Eye test wise, 3 weeks, he's been awesome on the stat sheet. But I didn't think he was very good against the Giants week 3. But they won that game. He had a couple touchdowns, whatever. He was awesome against the Jets. Another game in the 90s overall, 88.7 as a passer. He hasn't had a turnover with the play the last 2 weeks, and he was near the bottom of this list. He was in the low 20s, or I guess the high 20s, and he moved up a bunch to 21. Now he's in 15. So Russell Wilson and Daniel Jones being out puts him in the top 15, but here he is at 15. Congratulations. Number 14, Baker Mayfield. Just kind of disappointing. I did have him as a top 10 quarterback at points in the season, and he just hasn't kind of done it for me. He had a good statistical game, 305, 2 touchdowns, but a lot of that was after the catch with Njoku at 71 yards after the catch, I think. And I want to see more out of Baker. I guess I'm a Baker fan, if you want to call me that, but I want to see more out of Baker before he jumps back into the top 12, top 10 conversation. Number 13, Ryan Tannehill. Statistically, not great. 197 yards, touchdown. Did have a 107 rating. That's fine, but it was more of a Derrick Henry show kind of game in Jacksonville. Didn't grade out particularly well. 1 turnover-worthy play, 0 big-time throws. On the season, he's been really rock solid, but I think he's trending in the wrong direction. Number 12, speaking of trending in the wrong direction, Derek Carr is I know the big-time throws are there. He has 19. That's going to be hard to pass for a couple weeks, even if, let's say Carr isn't activated for the next 3 weeks. He's still going to be in the top 4 or 5 in big-time throws. But it was just a weird game against Chicago. The offense wasn't very good. They didn't move the ball particularly well. Did have a turnover play. Yeah, he has the 3 big-time throws, but you just wonder what's the point? So statistically wasn't great. Didn't have a touchdown. Threw 1 interception. Where are the Derek Carr for MVP folks? Where are you? Because I didn't think you had a great argument. Number 11, Kirk Cousins. He's been I don't want to say a pleasant surprise because I've always thought Cousins was like a solid quarterback, but he's been very good this season. Graded out really well this week. 0 turnover-worthy plays, 88 overall grade. And, he's up there. He's in the top 5 consideration by PFF grade. I'm not there yet. I didn't think he played very well against Cleveland. Needs to be better in those situations. But credit where credit's due. He's been really, really solid. Does get the 4-point bump this week. It was Detroit, but he played well. We move into the top 10. Matthew Stafford, the yo-yoing has stopped. He was 9, then 11, then 9, then 11. That's a whole mess. He's up to 10 now. Didn't play very well. This is more of a Russell Wilson falls out of the top 10, then Stafford jumps into the top 10. But did have 365 yards. Cool. A lot of that was Kupp and Woods and Deshaun Jackson, but it happens. 12 touchdowns to just 3 interceptions. That's a good ratio. And a 79 overall grade. Stafford's a good quarterback. I wouldn't say MVP caliber this year because I think that is a very high cutoff this year, but 2 big-time throws. Did have an ugly interception to Conjay Dix, though. Number 9, Joe Burrow. This is where I have the cutoff for MVP consideration. Above Burrow, and I think you have a shot at the MVP. Below Burrow, I think you're just, at this point, just playing to have a good season. 72 overall grade, 70.2 as a passer, 2 big-time throws, 3 turnover-worthy plays. It was a bit of a mess against Green Bay. He had some awesome throws down the field, but he also had an ugly interception in overtime, which I don't think was necessarily his fault. It was a miscommunication, so half blame. But, Burrow's having a good season, and I think he's a pretty safe bet as a top 10 quarterback. Patrick Mahomes statistically is an MVP candidate. 17 touchdowns, over 1,500 total yards. All of that's there. But as a team, like as a most valuable piece, I'm not seeing it this year. Why is he at 8? Variety of reasons. First of all, I think he's turning the ball over a lot, and he is not. To me, turnovers can be okay if you're bringing enough positive, right? If you are making those spectacular throws down the field. I can count on 2 hands how many spectacular throws Mahomes has had. A lot of his touchdowns have either been in the red zone on like easy plays, right? The shovels and the underhands and stuff like that, or have been you have a all pro caliber player throwing to Kelsey against the Ravens, for example, or even Pringle against the Ravens. He's not an all pro player, but it was an all pro caliber play, just breaking a bunch of tackles. So I think, yeah, you're going to look at the touchdowns. You're going to look at the 106 rating. It's like nothing to complain about there, but the eye test, Mahomes hasn't been quite as good. Now, this is a very top heavy quarterback ranking this week. 7-1 is all really close together. And I'm not saying I would take them over Mahomes forever, but they're playing better than Mahomes is right now. So moving on to 7. These 7 guys I think are legit MVP candidates. Brady didn't play very well against Philly. The last 2 weeks, only a 78.9 grade, 75 passing grade. Did have a turnover he plays first of the season against the Eagles. It's a work in not a work in progress. He's still having a great season. 18 total touchdowns. That's 3 per game. So he's on pace to have 51 total touchdowns, which is a mammoth number. But I will say Brady did lose some steam against the Eagles. So this top 6, I think, are all guys that if you write them down as your MVP, I'm cool with it. Josh Allen. He had one of the best games of the season. It sucks that it came in a week that Brady was awesome, Herbert was awesome, and Lamar was unbelievable. But Allen went into Arrowhead and played a fantastic game. 21 yards per completion, 3 touchdowns, added a rushing touchdown to a 139 rating, which is crazy considering his pass or his completion percentage wasn't all that great. But 5 big time throws, that doesn't happen very often. Only the 1 turnover worthy play and graded out in the 90s. Nothing to complain about there. If you have him at 1, I'm cool with it, by the way. I'm cool with it. Number 5, Kyla Murray. Again, this is one that if you have him at 1, he is my MVP right now. If you have him at 1, that's cool with me. Didn't have the best game ever against San Francisco. Was really bottled up as a runner. 7 carries for 1 yard. That was not a typo. 7 carries for 1 yard. 239 through the air, 1 touchdown. It was more of a better play by Hopkins, kind of in that Wentz mold that I think his yards are deserved and his touchdown is deserved. But at the same time, the actual touchdown he threw was more on the receiver than himself. So overall, a really strong year from Kyler, and I would say he's the MVP of the league right now. Number 4, Justin Herbert. If he's your number 1 quarterback, I'm cool with it. 83 overall grade, 76.3 passing, 2 big-time throws, 0 turnover-worthy plays, 5 total touchdowns, over 400 total yards of offense, 122 rating. Love to see it from Herbert, legit MVP candidate. Dak, again, if Dak's your number 1, I'm cool with it. A 74.5 overall, 82 passing, did have a fumble, 3 big-time throws, 1 turnover-worthy play, 3 total touchdowns, did have 2 turnovers. It happens. I get it. Really efficient game against the Giants. The Giants don't have the best secondary in the NFL. It's a solid secondary. He took them to task. He had some nice throws down the field too. Number 2, Lamar Jackson. For my money, Lamar Jackson has been the NFL's best passer in the last 15 quarters. So second quarter of the Chiefs game to now, he has been the NFL's best passer. He had a 90 passing grade against the Colts. He was very high against the Lions. He was very high against Denver. This week, he was just phenomenal. He was my team of the week quarterback. 500 total yards, 4 touchdowns. Did have a fumble, but that was as a pure runner, not as a passer. This was not a strip sack ordeal. A 140 pass rating, which is ridiculous on 43 attempts. So put some respect on Lamar Jackson as a passer, folks. Number 1, Aaron Rodgers. Rodgers, to me, isn't an MVP consideration, but I do think he is the NFL's best quarterback. And he didn't have the best of games against Cincinnati, but it was a lot better than he usually plays against Cincinnati, oddly enough. Cincinnati is one of his trouble spots. I never won in Cincinnati until this week, or last week, I guess. But I don't know. I would take Rodgers over any quarterback in the NFL in a game Sunday. So I do want to throw out my MVP is Kyler. So Kyler is my MVP, but he's not number 1 in my rankings. Hope you guys understand that. So thank you guys for watching. That was my quarterback rankings as of week 5. I did have to throw in the Eagles and Bucks stats and performances. I did move Brady down. Brady was 4, didn't play very well against the Eagles, dropped him to 7. So hope you guys enjoyed. Make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel, follow us on Twitter at UStadium and Instagram at UStadium. You can follow me at Mr. Splashman19, and have a great day, guys.